The dream is coming true.
To build an aircraft like this F13 is the biggest experience in my life.
It will be one of the greatest moments in my life when I take off with this F13 as a pilot.
I'm really happy to be part of this F13 project.
May 2014. Here in the German Black Forest, the employees of Kaelin Aero Technologies is breathing new life into an aviation icon. Aircraft manufacturer Dominik Kaelin is charged with ensuring the world's first entirely metal passenger aeroplane, manufactured in 1919, can take flight again.
Das ist ein absoluter Traum, sowas herzustellen, was man früher konnte, aber schon längst vergessen wurde.
The last time the Junkers F13 was in the air was the 1960s. Of the nearly 350 models of the legendary aircraft originally built, only 5 are in existence today, located in museums and unable to fly. That makes the challenge of getting a piece of history off the ground all the more difficult. To make the replica possible, the team will have to rely on incomplete drawings and individual historical findings.
Da haben wir hier ein Original-Winkelteil von damals, aus den 30er Jahren, von einer Junkers-Maschine, das wir jetzt hier zum Anpassen original verwenden. Danach wird dieses Teil dann nochmal zerlegt und wieder funktionstüchtig gemacht.
2 years before, research led to a breakthrough at Deutsches Museum in Munich, home to a perfectly preserved F-13, which will serve as inspiration for the modern replica. It's also the ideal location for Bernd Huckenbeck, head of the F-13 project. In one of the world's largest Hugo Junkers archives, he can refer to technical drawings, documents, and photos of Junkers' creations. He'd been rummaging through archives around the world for years.
Ich habe 2009 die Idee zu diesem Projekt gehabt, zu dem F-13-Projekt. 2010 habe ich mit den Recherchen begonnen und das ist dann so ein bisschen wie eine Sucht geworden.
He pored over one microfiche after another, looking for the document that would help the aircraft manufacturers reconstruct the F-13. It was the head archivist himself who brought out the valuable blueprints, the originals from the days of Junkers.
Ja, das ist im Grunde eines der wichtigsten Dokumente, dass wir auch sagen können, so wurde es gebaut und aufgrund dieser Zeichnung können wir es auch wieder aufbauen.
These forms of proof are especially important because if the new F-13 is going to fly, it needs to obtain modern flight approval, despite the fact that it had sufficiently proven itself in the 1920s. The world's first passenger aeroplane took to the skies for the first time on June 25, 1919. The maiden flight was 6 minutes long and laid the foundation for developing modern-day aviation. The long-forgotten story also fascinates aeroplane enthusiast Dieter Morszeck, on whose commission a piece of history will be brought back to life.
Es macht wirklich sehr, sehr viel Spaß, auch zu sehen, mit welchem Enthusiasmus, auch mit welcher Leidenschaft dieses Flugzeug zusammengebaut wird. Und es muss so ähnlich sein wie damals bei Hugo Junkers.
The Rimowa president and CEO from Cologne is the passionate visionary behind the construction project. For him, aluminum is so much more than just a material.
Rimowa, das ist Aluminium und das ist eigentlich ein Material, was sehr stark auch zur Entwicklung der Luftfahrt auch beigetragen hat.
Junkers used duraluminum for the first time in 1919, and in 1937, Richard Morszeck launched suitcases made from the same material.
Es ist eigentlich ein physikalisches Grundprinzip, was der Herr Junkers damals genutzt hat und auch der Vater von Dieter Morszeck. Die waren cleverer als die anderen.
And then they realized that duraluminum, an aluminum and copper alloy, is exceptionally sturdy and yet very lightweight and thin. Like the original, the F-13 replica has to be built by hand. Exceptional precision is required to meet the approval criteria of today, constantly comparing data, measuring everything, and conducting tests with the computer model.
Es ist eine Riesen-Challenge, das Ganze zu meistern. Dass es eben dann auch stimmt, damit wir auch das versichern können, dass das Flugzeug fliegt und hält.
This requires a great deal of work, lots of time, and thousands of individual parts. The aircraft manufacturers have to install every assembly, the fuselage, the wings, and the tail unit individually. It's only once all the paneling has been installed that Dominik and his employees can put the individual parts together, one of the most exciting and critical moments in the construction phase.
Ich hatte riesige Herzklopfen vorher und nachher war ich dann erleichtert, ganz klar, ja. Das ist nicht selbstverständlich, dass das so passt, ja.
Hugo Junkers had 348 F-13s built by 1931, and only 5 of these remain, showcased in museums. The idea of a new edition of the F-13 is thrilling.
Ein tolles Projekt und man kann das nur begrüßen und auch unterstützen. Es wäre immerhin dann das erste flugfähige F-13-Exemplar weltweit.
So each and every detail needs to be perfect. The cockpit of the Junkers F-13 was basic. The pilot and aircraft mechanic had only a few displays and had to fly by sight alone. But the original instruments would no longer be approved today. The replica will feature a connection to a modern onboard computer later on. The engine, an overhauled original radial engine, had arrived at Kaelin. So now the fine-tuning can begin. Dominik and his employees need to replace 35,000 small metal pins with rivets, which takes ages and is nerve-wracking.
Immer so, wenn es zum Ende zugeht, ja, das macht jetzt nichts, jetzt müssen wir fertig werden.
Each rivet needs to be secure so that the replica can take off with the same level of reliability as the original. Just 3 months after its maiden flight, the Junkers F-13 set 2 world records in altitude and in continuous flight of 25 hours. With such a prime example of German engineering, the team is happy to work well into the night. After all, it's about so much more.
Es ist ein einzigartiges Projekt, was wir machen. Das ist eigentlich ein Geschenk, dass man sowas heutzutage noch machen darf. Und da sind wirklich alle so aufgestellt, dass sie jetzt bis zum bitteren Ende mitmachen.
The aeroplane has to be ready in just a few weeks. And one of the final steps is applying the paint. Until now, all the parts have only had a green primer, which offers corrosion resistance and protects the corrugated metal from the weather. Following careful preparation, the paint experts spray the aluminum skin with the signature silver color and the cowling with black. Only then can the process proceed. Loaded and secured in 3 pieces, the aeroplane crosses the border in a container specially developed for the purpose. 140 kilometers from Oberndorf, Germany to Dübendorf, Switzerland. After a night of inspection at customs, the oversized truck brings the F-13 to Dübendorf Air Base near Zurich. Where the Swiss JU Air is based, and the replica of the Junkers F-13 will now be housed. Rimowa and JU Air have been working closely together for many years and collectively achieved the spectacular feat of crossing the Atlantic with the old Anti-U, a Junkers Ju-52. The finishing touch is all that stands in the way of the F-13. With the help of JU Air employees, the Kaelin team puts all the pieces back together again, while the upholsterer finishes the interior. Dark leather for the open cockpit and soft upholstery and bright fabrics in the heated cabin, which can hold 4 passengers and their luggage. That was a sensation in the 20s. Today, each detail of the interior is fiddly work. The decisive moment, however, is when the wings are attached to the fuselage. It was important to aircraft manufacturer Dominik to do that today, even if it meant working into the night. Day 2 in Dubendorf. The F-13 will be making its first major appearance for Rimowa President and CEO Dieter Morszeck in just a few hours. The JU Air mechanics install the radial engine, above which the cowling will sit. With the stickers already applied, it's time to install the two-blade propeller and the cockpit instruments. The home stretch for the return of a legend. All that's missing is a tiny yet important detail, the nameplate.
Also dieses Typenschild ist einem Original Junkers Typenschild nachempfunden. Damals hat man den Flugzeugen Namen gegeben. Das heißt, Junkers hat angefangen, die ersten beiden Flugzeuge mit den Namen seiner Töchter zu versehen. In Anlehnung an diese Historie haben wir uns gedacht, wir nennen das Flugzeug Anneliese II, weil das erste Flugzeug F13 war, hieß Anneliese.
The big moment. For the first time, the man who commissioned the F-13 gets to see his Anneliese II in all its glory, and he can't believe his eyes.
Hallo! Grüß dich! Gratulation! Du bist ein toller Kerl immer. Das ist wirklich wie schön das ist hier. Es ist einfach perfekt gelungen, als wenn das jetzt hier schon das 100. Flugzeug wäre. Und das ist einfach eine ganz tolle Leistung, Ingenieursleistung.
Each detail is perfect and amazes the F-13 visionary.
Es ist überwältigend. Also ich muss ehrlich sagen, das ist also einer meiner Highlights in meinem Leben.
The next highlight for the first Rimowa F-13 will occur in spring 2016. The aeroplane will soon fly for the first time, with the F-13 general contractor and JU Air CEO Kurt Waldmeier in the pilot seat.
Das ist natürlich die Herausforderung, auch mit dieser F-13 wieder in die Luft zu gehen, sie zu spüren, sie zu beherrschen und ihr zu sagen, wer hier der Chef ist.